Hello. I had the opportunity to sit down with Kenny of Kenny vs. Spenny for a while the other day. As you can imagine, I had a lot to ask him, and we covered a good amount of it. As a hyper nerd who has read and listened to a lot of interviews with Kenny, I was really happy to get some new stories and perspectives from him. We talk about the genesis and evolution of KvS, what media Kenny's consuming nowadays, and a lot more. There are some recurring themes of growing up, being rude, avoiding exploitation, and a few others. This was pretty casual, so bear with me if there are any audio issues. We start off by talking about how he's seen within his family as he's gotten older. I hope you enjoy it.
Who cares? Honestly, I don't care. I'm
Okay.
not. I piss people off, but they're infatuated by me and the family. I had a really old uncle who died when I was a kid. His name was Uncle AB, and he was morbidly obese, like huge. Like I come from an extremely fat family, like fucking huge. And my Uncle AB was like the funny comedian in the family. So as a very small child, when the family realized like I was, me and I was cracking jokes, they just loved me. They're like, oh, this Jewish shit's going to continue through that guy.
Mhm.
Once
That's
I was at, once I was at, as a little kid, I was in the uh, dairy restaurant in Toronto, which is a Jewish restaurant that serves like eggs and smoked fish and stuff. And I was sitting at some, it's like open tables. They're like basically picnic tables in these restaurants, like just massive open tables. And I was sitting, oh, there's an old guy in a wheelchair, and I went and sat next to him, and I had this, like, they had a smoked fish count, like takeout counter, retail counter in the restaurant. So you could go buy a piece of Cisco, a big piece of smoked fish. And I went, I bought one, and I sat down and I opened up the paper at the table, and I started eating, and this wheeled over this, like, 100-year-old Holocaust victim.
Mhm.
And and he I was peeling the skin off the fish, getting ready to eat it. He goes, "Don't eat the skin." And I said, "For what I paid, I'll eat the paper."
Uh-huh.
And stupid story, but he was like laughing so hard. This family was like, "Hey, thank you. He's so happy that, you know,
You brightened his day.
this will be continued without him." And I think the Jews are,
Mhm.
you know, uh, get happy when they realize, oh, there's like, shticks. There'll always be shtick when they're gone.
That's funny.
And it is shtick, like it really is shtick. It's not like quick wit or anything. It's like full on. I am cheap. I'm gonna eat the paper. You know what this costs me? Like that. That's what they love.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's part of the culture. It's like you just expressing
Yeah,
that the culture
yeah, yeah.
lives on.
Yeah, it's a genre and a kind of tempo and tone that is just like kind of locked. And if you do that, you know, Borscht Belt shtick, it all has, it's like that. It's so if you follow that tempo, that timber,
Hmm.
uh, and I can do the Jew shit, you know.
I find it interesting because like I'm a young guy and I'm not married or have any children, and so but I watch like you or like other people I've seen like get big online or whatever, and I something I feel like I notice is that they are old,
Mm-hmm.
not married, maybe no kids, and I just think about like, are we moving into this generation of people who have kids old and maybe don't get married, and what
Well, it's
impact is
funny.
that going to
It's
have?
funny you mentioned that because where I grew up in this neighborhood, Bathurst and Eglinton in Toronto, which was super Jewy, like fucking Jew York, we used to call it. There were old guys, like really old guys who were single and never had any kids, and they were like, we called them the schlep rocks. Like they were like the, you know, fucked up orcs,
Uh,
our neighborhood. And that, you know, I never really wanted to be that type of guy walking alone with a, paper bag taped to his foot,
mm-hmm.
because no one was taking care of him. And then, and I really, we kind of do what our dads do too. We either do what they do or not do what they did. So I kind of just doing what my dad did. Had kids when I was 50 and did it late.
You mentioned something interesting in there, which is like you have a cult following, low level celebrity and stuff. Um, I've always thought about that because you have this show. I mean, not just Kenny versus Spenny, but other shows too, where you're just trying to make a show, but it's going. So you have fans already. They're coming up to you sometimes, and like in KvS, you have the anonymous crackhead who recognizes you and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And
But that
that's
happened all like that when we started, just to go back, when we
yeah.
started on Kenny versus Spenny, we were on the CBC, which was the Canadian Broadcasting Company, which, back then in 2002 or 3, 2003 maybe, um, there were people that had black and white TVs. Like Toronto, Canada is half, 90% or maybe 80% of the country are, TVs with fucking coat hangers sticking in them. It is there are a lot of fucking like poor people that don't have cable, but the only thing they got in like prisons and on the farm or just in reserves and indigenous places was CBC. And for us to come on to CBC, like the antithesis of shitty moralistic Canadian um content, it was fucking, I was cracking jokes about munching out little boys at, 5:30 on, and then nobody got the jokes. Not that I don't munch out little boys, Spencer does, but I was just so over everyone's head and complex and horrible and filthy.
Did
They
it
didn't even,
ever did it ever get in the way of you being able to make the show?
not really. No, I was the good thing about here is nobody really fucks with you once you have a show, and if they do, you just say fuck you.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're all scared of you. You
Well,
know what I
I
mean?
think about I mean, obviously some of the stuff you've done, but also like picturing Tom Green or other examples of that where,
But
well,
Tom didn't really do. Tom didn't. Tom did some back then. Some dead raccoon on a talk show stuff, but that was the extent, or the moose humping.
yeah.
That was the extent of his depravity. We did like horrible, terrible things I
Well,
totally regret. Almost everything. I can't even show the show on YouTube.
I know, yeah, it's frustrating. Don't even get me started on that. Um, I think more what I was getting at was like Tom would go on the street and kind of fuck with people. And 20 years ago, those people wouldn't have ever thought that he was anything but crazy. If he
Yeah,
went on the street now and tried to do some of those same things, everyone would get,
people want
oh, he's
money.
recording. It's going to go on
Yeah,
YouTube.
yeah,
It's going to be a viral.
yeah. That's right. Yeah, he was one of the first people to do field produced segments like that. Um, but we kind of had the same. He was Dogma, and we had the same Dogma type of production values. Where I'm going out one with Sebi and Brendan, you know, or Jamie. You know what I mean? So you really have like sometimes it was just me and Sebi with Brendan, with the sound guy and Jamie hanging back, just trying to get releases. And so you're very inconspicuous and surreptitious.
So you never had someone, you never like tried to run up on someone or interview or piss them off or confuse them and they just looked at you like, I know who you are. This isn't going to work on me.
No, I never really did that stuff. I did like Maurice, like hello sir, when I see like some lesbian chick or something,
Mm-hmm.
but that's more like diplomatic and funny. But I did it like kind of playing a character. But when I was shooting, I say, hey, like, can we just do something? They, yeah, of course, Kenny, whatever. And then I'd go
Okay.
into it, or I just, it's so obvious that I was,
Mm-hmm.
like
I think
go
about,
like so hokey. I was so hokey, but I just have this aura of like safety. Like when I go up to people, they just seem to like me, and I'm really kind of like warm, and I it's just a diplomacy that I have that allows me to go into like insane locations and not get arrested
Hmm.
and talk my way out of shit, or get into places like you know I don't know. It,
Yeah.
it, it it's I've milked that talent, but it's so much work. Like to be dropped, just on as an aside, when this is the to me the most difficult form of content there is being dropped somewhere like a Trump rally or on a street corner and having to make spin fucking gold out of nothing. You know, yes, it's hard to write scripts and make movies, but at least you have a script and you know what you're fucking doing, and you just go and do it. When you're just out alone on the street and you have to create fucking platinum,
Hmm.
one for the secondary to the broadcaster, first for yourself, so you don't go fucking crazy thinking, oh God, I'm shit. Like, just so you can, live and survive and be happy. And then thirdly, or it's kind of goes like I make it for me, and then I make it for the audience, and you make it for the broadcaster. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
so,
I
but
know.
it's fucking brutal.
I know
Yeah,
you mentioned once that Spenny had a stalker, like a serious one.
yeah. I think we've all had. I think everybody has. People like look shitty fucking Instagram 10-year-old girls putting mascara on have stalkers. Like people are crazy. The farther you reach, the more views, the more subs, the more crazies.
Wasn't there a guy who like was straight up arrested with like duct tape and shit in his trunk or something though?
Well, I think it was he had a girlfriend, and for some reason, because of the show, he thought Spenny was boning his girlfriend, which is impossible. Spenny doesn't bone girls, and so he just imagined that this guy from this TV show was fucking his girlfriend, and then
Okay.
like after him with like ropes and jugs of butane and
That's uh that's insane.
heavy shit. God,
How
people.
do you know, and maybe you don't want to tell me, like how did that come to pass? Did he like
I
knock
don't
on
know. They
somebody's
just
door,
you
or
know
did he?
you hear like, oh yeah, the guy, some cops found some guy like
Oh, okay. So it
with
was more
like
like he heard that there was
a
something out
sharpened
there.
screwdriver in your face on the picture of your face on the dashboard. But
Okay.
yeah, we heard about it.
Okay, it wasn't like he showed up and
No,
there was an incident. Gotcha.
yeah, there's an incident.
Yeah, something you mentioned about like having to be on the street and spin stuff into gold made me think, and not knowing if it goes well made me think. Do you? I'm sure you've seen it, but do you like Nathan For You or The Rehearsal? Any of that?
I really haven't watched much of that stuff. Partially, I'm a little jealous, but um, that's something that I can't really do. Like I would never, like I don't really stay in the same character. Like I think I would like to, but um, yeah, I think I might be a little too old for it. The droning, the monotone, is gets to me a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a little one dimensional. But I think he's a genius. I don't really like the fact that sometimes he goes into a business, and I don't know if it's real or not, but it seems like the business actually wants him to go in there and save the business, and he just kind of exploits them and uses them for his show. So I'm really not into the exploitation shit at all. You know what I mean? Like I like people are like, hey, on Cameo or at live shows, VIPs like, hey, call my brother a fucking, shitting fuck, and they go, I can't. I do that to Spenny. I abuse Spenny. I don't abuse anybody else. You know what I mean? Like, sure, I'll abuse some idiot, but or someone heckles me or something. I'll just do something. But historically, I don't like insulting people or making fun of people, even on phones when people should put shit in my face. Like I will, but yeah, for VIP and stuff.
Yeah, because the his new show, The Rehearsal, is even more so that you might really, really not like it.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because it goes in a direction, and I don't know. I mean, I don't work in TV or anything, but it feels to me like he was trying to aim for one thing and it failed, but he had to make something of it. So he sort of diverts, and I think where it goes is interesting, but it's
Yeah, which is good. People
you
are
can
talking
see,
about it.
yeah.
People are talking about it, but you know, I honestly, I don't have the fucking attention span anymore. You know, I like all I do is basically watch, you know, download movies or shows or you know,
Have you seen anything
over this.
lately you really like?
Um, yeah, there's been some insane, incredible shit. Like, but I watch so much stuff. I've always watched millions of fucking movies. Like my entire life, I sat in the basement with a stolen movie projector and just watched like movie after fucking movie. Like you know, like the most insane, like Russian movies from like 1920 or you know, it's just crazy shorts and just every fucking director, like every fucking director that was
Mm-hmm.
on film. And but I just saw a movie. Well, actually, this one movie I saw, Wellness, is a fucking masterpiece. Unbelievable. Wellness, it's on Vimeo. It's fucking insane. And the other one is Pleasure. I just watched, which is incredible.
Uh-huh. I've not heard of
Pleasure.
either of
And
those.
it's 3D. You know, it's got triple X porn in it. It's
Oh,
just
really? Okay.
incredible masterpiece.
Okay.
And
So,
it's like shot in LA, and it's about this young girl trying to get into the LA porn industry. And you know, I tried to get into the industry in LA too, so I have a certain affinity towards like movies where you know people are trying to like become famous.
mm-hmm.
But there's so much shit. Like you know, every night I'm watching something fucking. I just watched like Love and Robots, and you know, there's some. Yeah, it's hit and miss, but there's some fucking like gold in that. And it just nonstop. Like you know, I'm always watching tons of shit.
Do you, I mean, do you care about any of the like big Marvel shit and all of
You
that
know,
stuff?
I like not really. Like I'll only see the big ones, like the Last Avenger, like with Thanos, and I like I like the Iron Man. But it's too much for me to, you know, to just kind of keep up and watch next one, next one, next one. Like even Lord of the Rings, which is probably my favorite, you know, trilogy of all time. You know, I can't watch the new one. It's like, oh shit, it's just so much talking, and I'm so burnt out,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. Like basically, during the summer, I have a cottage that I rent off pals that we've been renting for years for nothing. It's fucking incredible. Like they have this insane like estate with all these cottages on it. We get one, and I've got my PS4 and my old Xbox 360 up there,
Mm-hmm.
and like 70 games.
What do you? What I mean?
And so now I just play Wolfenstein over and
Okay,
over,
there you go.
every Wolfenstein over and over, or you know, like Portal, or just you know, like just first person shooters, like all the CODs and you know campaigns. I'm so like there's nothing new. Like I just played. What did I just play? I don't even know. But there's nothing. There's nothing played. Like I can't sit up there and play GTA 5 again, or you know jump off a fucking church steeple into a fucking another haystack. Like it's you know it's just so fucking monotonous. And
Uh-huh.
for some reason, why I can kill Nazis. I like to kill Nazis.
That's fair.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it does feel like some of that stuff has gotten pretty generic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I try not
Weird
to.
thinking some $1 trillion fucking industry. You think they would come out with some new games? I want to play that cat game, but I got to get PS5.
Oh, yeah, Stray or whatever it's called.
Right? Yeah, I like that. I think that's incredible.
Yeah. I like. I mean, I'm gonna look sound like the biggest hipster ever, but there's a lot of great, like really deep indie, fucked up, weird games, especially like.
I know, but how do there's too many of them. How do you find it? It's like, you know, I can't listen to music anymore. I got 3 terabytes of fucking stolen downloaded music. You know, I've got every fucking Bjork album ever made. I don't even like Bjork. I don't even, not, I don't like her. I just don't listen to her. Like, I have too much music. I don't even, that it's killed my ability to listen to music. It may be a really stupid idea, but okay, here, I have other record cabinets here, and there's some in the
Okay.
back.
All right.
But here's one. So there's 4 rows,
Two
8
two
boxes. Why
columns.
don't you pick a box? Left
Um,
left to right. So one, one, two. Well, whatever.
okay, second column, third
One,
down.
two, three, yeah.
Yeah, one more down. One more down. Yeah,
Left this side or that side?
that side.
This side?
Yeah.
This side.
No, other side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, middle, left or right?
Left.
Okay, so I'll just pull these up. See what I got. Oh, Claudine Langer. Who's the best? She was the girl from the party. Love is Blue on red vinyl.
What is that? I'm not a simpleton when it comes to music, but I also like don't know shit. What is that like? What is that?
Oh, it's the greatest lounge music. Did you ever see the party, Peter Sellers?
I have not seen that. No.
You should see that. She's the girl in it. This is stuff I like. Psychedelic Visions. Uh, is like weird, just weird fucking psychedelic shit.
Is it like a guy talking over like synth or theremin or something?
No, it's just like it's like like it's like 70s commercial album put out by companies that would like just so insanely psychedelic for the sake of being psychedelic. It's just like it's like corporate psychedelic, which I like.
That's interesting.
Los Incas, I have a lot of. See, this is probably my international. So I've got a lot of records from countries. Los Incas, music of the American Indian. Look at this. Maxime Moi. Crazy. That's French, a very famous French Canadian actor who I went out with once. We didn't do anything, but she gave me this 8x10 and I just fucking found
No
it.
way.
That's so crazy.
How long ago was that?
This is probably 89, 90.
Shit.
Ah, Maxime, ça va? Oui, ça va bien.
Oh,
It was cute. I had a crush on her, but
it's just registering for me that was a picture in the record. Her face wasn't just.
Yeah, it was just like when 30 years ago, it was just something I wanted to keep. So I slipped her 8x10 into an album and I just basically found it. Huh. This is crazy. The Bulgarian women's choir is fucking insane. Just crazy. Like, do acid, listen to that shit. Yeah, these are my international Indian music of the Canadian Plains, ethnic folkways, musical anthology of the Orient. Yeah, there's all my Japan. So this is stuff. I was a stoner, and my drug dealing pal, who was much older than me, he was Sebi's dad. That's how I met Sebi. All he did was just smoke fucking like just coners of weed. He still does, just puffs, and all I did every single day in high school, every day I went over to Terry's house and we just smoked weed, and I would bring over records and we would just sit and listen to records. There's no internet. There's literally no internet. It was before the internet. And, Sebi would sit there playing Load Runner on some, orange, yellow, like Apple Mac,
Do you know song poems at all?
No.
So back in the day, there were like advertisements in the back of like the classifieds or whatever of magazines and comic books or whatever, and it was like, send a check for $30 and lyrics to the studio, and if you're big or a star, like we'll make you a record of your stuff.
Yeah.
And it was a scam basically, because they would just farm all these lyrics and they would pay a band to play the most boring, clinical, check the box type of music to these insane people's lyrics. And then they would package them on a record as promised and send them back to you. So you'd be number 4 of like 12 tracks.
Yeah, it's crazy. So these records exist?
Yeah. So there's one song I love, and it's called "A Blind Man's Penis."
Oh yeah.
And a blind man's penis is erect because he's blind. Is how the song starts to go.
Yeah. But where were these being produced? What country?
America,
Oh, American.
elsewhere, yeah.
Oh, too bad. I was hoping it'd be like Pakistan or like Congo.
Yeah, I don't
It'd be
know.
even more fucked up.
Yeah, but what was funny about that one is it was originally Stevie Wonder's penis is erect because
Mhm.
he's blind, and when the guy submitted it, they wrote back and said we cannot use Stevie Wonder's name, so it must be.
Have you seen that new Stevie Wonder doc?
I've not.
No, neither is he.
Like you said, it's kind of like you do what you love, and then you do what people love, right? And
Yeah.
I'm I'm not the type that goes crazy. I mean, I'm a very cold type of crazy, right? I
Yeah.
am crazy, but I'm calm in a way.
Well,
So
I think what's happening was it was so like to tell you truthfully, which I've never really talked about, is I did the show. Then I went to I was in LA and I was broke and destitute, and we did the show, and I kind of went back to show was like 10 years or close to it, and then I kind of went back to LA and I had cash, but it was still so I was so traumatized by the poverty when I was there that even when I got back to LA and I had tons of fun and rammed and just like partied and not nothing crazy partied, just like partied responsibly.
mhm.
Um, there's just something about you know I just felt like I was kind of done because it was so crazy, and then I did testes, and I got in this big fight with you know Matt, and we made out, but it was just like just even the fight was so intense and fucking insane, and I was just like, you know what, I am not ever gonna. I just thought I'm never gonna do better than I ever did at Kenny versus Spenny, and even that I kind of did wrong because it was just too fucked up and rude, and I was too young and green. I didn't really understand my responsibility as a content producer, and I didn't really care. Like I was just kind of like a punk. Like it was funny and it was great, and I love it to pieces. But looking back, you know, like Trailer Park Boys or Kids in the Hall, like these shows aren't really rude and they can air on Netflix. Like I can't.
Yeah,
I don't know. I actually don't know if I would have made it being, you know, more like CBC and less rude, or is the only reason why you're talking to me is because I was rude and did the showcase show. So maybe somebody, if it was a much cleaner show, maybe I would have been Schitt's Creek and we would have really popped and exploded and I'd be a fucking billionaire.
mhm.
But that's not really what I wanted to do, or that's not what I could do. Because to me, I feel like I never really deserved any of this stuff, and that's why I kind of sabotaged it. Maybe I
Mhm.
don't know whether I was sabotaging it or just doing what I wanted to do. But I'm kind of like a shock. It turns out I'm like a shock comedian. All I do is crack fucking crazy, insane
Mhm.
jokes. People
Uh,
laugh. But I think part of it, like I, I was kind of doing this before I even heard Stern. So I was always doing this stuff. And then I heard Stern and he was so insane and rude and filthy and kind of, at the perfect time, legitimized, and then like Jackass. These guys are, taking diarrhea shits on windows and they're the biggest, on restaurant windows and putting shit and food in restaurant, like actual shit and sitting in outhouses on a crane and going upside down. It was all shit. And they were just exploding. And I was like, oh shit, I go, I have to do that, even though it's kind of what I would have done anyhow, it was still legitimized, the abrasive filth that Kenny versus Spenny is.
yeah, I think that,
Or maybe if he didn't, sorry, maybe if he didn't laugh at us or think it was that fucking crazy. And, Spenny's responsible for it too, because he just let me kind of hold the reins and, shit on him, do cake mix shitting on him. Like that is honestly, that is insane.
yeah,
One that it ever would even air on television is fucking out of control. That will never, in a billion. Well, that may happen again, like when the Skeksis take over the TVs in 370 years. That may just be like insects shitting on hookers' tits. Like, who fucking knows? But the fact that I managed to bamboozle it on television, which to me is probably enough to know that I had these executives that were just stupid. They weren't stupid. They just didn't know better. And Tom Green and Jackass was big, and this is whatever all the kids are doing. So okay, yeah, you can poop on your friend. So like they're just soccer moms. They had no idea what was going on. And I was such a good fucking schmoozer and producer that I you know, would send them like, $300-$400 bottles of Johnny Blue and take them out for insane dinners and, and get all their talk to their nephews. And they're like, oh, Auntie, you're a fucking God. Kenny, you know what I mean? So it was like I milked it. I made, I made it possible for a tranny to pull out her dick, or gay guys to stick a bat up Spencer's ass, or us to smoke weed on TV, or drink beer, or puke on TV and make Spencer eat it. And because it was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, you know, I was like, oh shit, I better do this now because we'll never be able to do it again, no matter what the fuck happens to me in the future. So and I guess that's why Matt and Trey ended up liking it, or whoever, because it was so absurd and so crazy. And you got to understand the market is so saturated with content. Everyone's on fucking, Pirate Bay downloading all of their shit. Family Guy, South Park, Tom Green, Jackass. God, there's so many other, things that everybody was like kind of into at the time. Like if we weren't fucking crazy, nobody would have ever seen us. You know?
Well, I think that that's an interesting aspect of the. I mean, there's a lot of interesting aspects of the show, but like just the concept of we're two friends and we're going to compete, and every episode title is like a pitch for why the show's great.
Yeah. Well, nobody was competing. There was none of that.
No, yeah, and I mean, I'm gonna take for granted that you've seen some of my videos at some point.
Yeah.
And that's sort of my thesis is like the competition is an excuse. It's just a reason to do crazy shit, and sometimes a tame competition turns into insanity, and sometimes the insane
no,
ones.
no. The competition at the beginning of the series was key. Like there was nothing more important. Like if you look at the pilot, which is who can gain more weight. Yes, I cheated and stuff, but I did the competition. Look at your kitty.
Yeah.
And but it, I think as a show we got more produced and we had fans. To me, the show kind of started like happy versus unhappy. You know what I mean? That was kind of like, I'm the happy guy. Spenny's actually, the show started with cheater versus nice guy. Like that's what I thought the show was originally. I thought, oh fuck, everyone's gonna hate me. I'm cheating. I have to be the fucking Spenny. That's what I thought. That's what we both thought. Spenny's like, oh, they're gonna love me. I'm so hot. Good. Like I'm the good guy. I'm the moralist. They're gonna love me, and you're the fucking cheater. Everyone's gonna hate you. And I was like, yeah, well, that's worth the cash at least. And then, but it wasn't like that at all.
Mm-hmm.
Show started a couple episodes in. One episode, two episodes, Kenny's a cheater. Like poor Spenny. Episode 3, 4, but to fucking crush Spenny. You just want that asshole to be fucking destroyed. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
The more like the real fans, the more you watch the episodes, the more complex the show goes. If you the fewer episodes you watch, you think, oh, it's just Jackass. It's a series of unrelated vignettes, and the people who like the old lady, the Karens who come up to me and go, you're Lenny Benny, and your show's just like, they just think like the overall underlying concept for everybody who really doesn't know us is we're just these idiots doing sketches, and that's what they think. But
No, yeah.
reality is it was more about our relationship than anything else. And our relationship, me selling out my best friend for fame and fortune, and him being sold out for fame and fortune, him accepting that fucking, you know, ruse, and just how kind of fame destroyed our relationship, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree, and I know what you mean about season one being more clinical. And I've talked to people who say that's their favorite season because they like the competition aspect of it.
Yeah.
Whereas my favorite part is your relationship, really. Um,
Yeah.
so
Well, you know, it was just a chapter, it was natural progression. I think even kind of Matt and Trey thought it should be more kind of, you know, serialized. Maybe not Matt, but the reality is it is whatever it is. You know, at the end of, you know, I leave him in a box floating out in the ocean, and the episode is who's better at badminton. Like, who fucking cares? Like, to me, it's just whatever's fucking funny. And so I don't know if I said it, but I said it's, you know, Spenny is to me the show just basically I don't care versus I care. I didn't care. I didn't care about standing up. I didn't care about anything. And the fact that I was competing against somebody who cared ended up making him look like a total fucking idiot.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he cared. Like, if you care, you're a fucking loser. Like, who fucking cares?
Hmm.
You know? So what I thought would make me look like an idiot ended up making me look like fucking genius. And that's what people loved, because we're so sick of idiots fucking caring. Like, who cares? And that's really all the show is. Sometimes the truth is, Spenny says I cared more than him, which I did. Like, I cared more about producing great content, making you fucks laugh, not fucking up the show. Having a progressive narrative story that, like, we try to do while we're, fucking randomly shooting it. So I cared because he didn't care. He didn't care who edited it. He didn't care what was being shot. You know, he did. That's not really true. He did, but he didn't really, do post production, which is half of the, you know, half of the production of a series, and that's a very important half. You just can't just show up on camera, do your shit, and fuck off, which he
So
did a lot more than I did.
I have a couple of questions for you. So one of there's a couple. First of all, when people ask like, "Hey, I want to introduce my friend to the show. What should I show them?" I always say start from episode one. Like, first of all, you're gonna love the series, so just get all
Yeah,
of it. And also,
that's
yeah,
in the
it shows you
pilot.
that progression.
But you know what? To me, it's so impossible to get anyone to watch anything. You might as well just start with fart, so they fucking like, oh my god, love it, as opposed to, watching something from like 2002.
Yeah, I have weird
But
friends.
to me, the pilot, there's shows like like that were chapter, like, life changing things for me. When we did the pilot, I said, oh no, dude, we are fucking, like, this is serious shit. Like, this is a show. And then, we do, like, handcuffed, or baby, or, episodes, and I'm like, oh my god, like, I saw baby in it. The baby episode, Duncan Christie cut it in 2 days. I just showed up to do rough cuts, and he's like, I did it. He's been up for like 60 hours, and I was like, I didn't even touch it. I was like, oh my god, this is a masterpiece. And this is like 20 years ago, when no one was doing anything. Like, Tom Green was the only thing out there. I didn't even have a an example. Like, when I'm pitching it, we're pitching in LA. Like, the only thing I could say was the Osbournes, because there was nothing out there that had anything to do with anything.
Mm-hmm.
It was like Osbournes with a competition. That is basically it. Or, it was Celebrity Death Match, which, fuck, you guys are too young. So
No,
the
no, but
Celebrity Death Match meets the Osbournes.
yeah, no, I liked celebrity. I have older siblings, so I'm
Yeah.
keyed into some of that stuff still.
But that was the only thing that anyone would even like. I had to compare something that was on television for them to go, oh yeah, that's on TV. Oh yeah, that's on TV. Okay, maybe you can be on TV.
Yeah, something else that's really striking about, I mean, this is kind of obvious, but going from season one to season two is just that, like, there is such a stark contrast in Spenny. Like, he grows his hair out It's a little bit better quality, so you can kind of see his like alienness a little better. It's a
Yeah.
different house. He's insane. Like in the first season, he's a
Well,
little demure.
he could never handle it. So the more the bigger the pressure, the better he got, because the what makes him more fragile, comedy is conflict. So yeah, my job was to like push his buttons for you, get him mad, make him hate the audience. The only way you love him is if he hates you. So even on these live shows now, my job is like, because every show's really kind of different. I have some jokes I want to do, and I talk about the anthology of our lives, but my job is to make him hate the audience. I get the audience to laugh at jokes that he hates and things that he hates, so he instantly knows they're my fans and not his. And the second he hates the audience, then his brain fucking breaks. And the second the audience hates him and he goes crazy, that's when I finally click in, and then I go. Then we just then it's an attack.
Yeah, and I think that was something that clicked for me seeing your show live was obviously there's a part of me that's like they're doing a tour. Are they going to do the same jokes every time? Oh, Spenny's going to act surprised, but it's not that he acts surprised. He just has an endless amount of hate and frustration to the fact that it works.
Yeah, when it's not even that, it doesn't even act surprised. He's just so discouraged by humanity.
He's discouraged by the fact that he's not surprised.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, oh, okay, here we are. Okay, great. Oh, Brooklyn, just like fucking Thunder Bay. Great. Bunch of
yeah,
fucking.
yeah. I mean, it was amazing for that reason.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that was worried that because I'm a super nerd and I had kind of seen clips online or whatever that
Well, I think people, nobody knows what we're going to do. I love the live show. I honestly, I'm thinking of shooting it and making a movie about it, because it is so, like, yesterday I posted, we just did a show yesterday, the day before, some club in, out a half hour outside of Toronto. They were opening a club and they wanted us to do it, so we did it. And first of all, hardly anyone showed up, not because it just didn't have the publicity that they needed to, and they're just, we sell out shows in a day here. So it was a really weird, and it was like really, like, it's in Richmond Hill, which is like the Asian center of Toronto. So it was really, really strange. And fuck, I forgot what I was going to say. Anyways, oh no, somebody just posted a little clip, like a 20-second clip of it yesterday. I just posted on my Instagram just now. And I think, oh, it's so fucking funny. Like, I love our dynamic and what we do. And that like, to me, I'm so blown away that I'm actually like a stand-up comedian performer. Like, what? Like, I never thought, like, I've had like, it's funny, Tom Green has been bugging me to do stand-up for fucking years, and I was like, I can't do it. Like, I can't. I'm not a stand-up guy, and it's not really stand-up. It's more like performance. But it turns out it is 100% stand-up, and I think we're one of the only duos.
yeah.
There's no duos anywhere. There are zero duos. Oh, yeah, but
I
that's
know it's different, but it's funny. I
that's
have the
a little different, because I really feel like we are represent a demographic. Like, I don't really think
totally.
there's many things for all us, me included, all of us to watch and really fucking relate to. Like, in fact, there's nothing. It's a fucking vacuum. Like, there's honestly, like, what are you gonna do? Watch Breaking Bad again? There's nothing for any of us to fucking watch.
Yeah.
And I'm not into like My Little Pony or anime, so it's even worse. Some anime, but
What anime do you like?
yeah.
I'm not an anime guy, but
Oh,
if
I
you
love like
mention it,
Akira, and
okay.
I love like the computer anime, the high end computer animated shit, like Final Fantasy uh it's like model animation stuff like that. Like, just really like whatever it is. I don't even care what it is.
Have you
I just
seen
want it's just fucking, what if it's great? I fucking love it. I
Have
don't
you
care.
seen Evangelion?
No, what's that?
Evangelion.
No.
It's like
What is it?
a late '80s, '90s. It's a very fucked up. Like in a good. I'm not an anime person. I've seen like
Yeah.
3 in my life, but that's one that's like this isn't just good anime. It's a really incredible TV show about life and death and
No,
the
no, I
apocalypse.
will
And
watch it. Sometimes I with the really shitty Japanese animation, I'm like, ugh, I can't deal with the,
yeah, that
you
show's
know,
beautiful. And
one dimensional flying through the air, flat,
yeah,
shitty,
yeah, it's
the
bad.
Pokemon shit.
Yeah.
But I love like I'm a cult movie guy, so I my favorite kind of anime cartoons are Fist of the North Star
Oh yeah, yeah.
and that type of shit. But again, I'm too old, and now I just need to sit and watch like you know murder docs and shitty people get screwed.
Here's another random thing that struck me about like the show immediately is just that I thought you guys were so much younger than you were. Was that?
Yeah, yeah. Which you know what? I don't probably think that was a good thing. I think the fact that we were 40, and Spenny was 50, basically, is even more pathetic and funnier.
I
Like
find that
I
hilarious.
once I pitched like ABC or somebody, and funny Spenny fucked up that entire pitch. Once we went to like we had an ABC pitch with Will Smith's company. Will Smith was our first boss, and so we went around with his partner JK, some high school buddy of his that he started Overbrook with, and we went. They got us this insane ABC meeting, like ABC, like we're kids from fucking Toronto. We're in ABC with like the head of ABC, and our kind of manager guy, I'm not our manager, but the our boss. He's not even a boss, but the guy who we went around, David Talkman, who we loved, went around shopping Kenny versus Spenny with from Overbrook. He was like, dude, this is fucking heavy. Don't fuck this up. Like right before we went in, I was like, okay, don't worry. I'm like, I can crush this fucking bitch. Don't worry. We're going to ABC, baby. And the second we walk in, they sit down. She says, so Spenny, what's the show about? And I swear to God, true story. He freezes and he goes, you have no idea what it's like pitching you. And then he runs out of the room. And sadly, it freaked me out. Instead of like, if I would have like broke out laughing and used that and said, I am going to destroy him for
Yeah, yeah.
you. And like was that, ready. But because, he threw me off, I was like, oh fuck. So I couldn't really get it back. It was a shit pitch.
That's
But the
insane.
good news is, if we would have gone to ABC, even if we would have gone to MTV, which we sold it to MTV, if they if we actually did the show, they would have just killed it, and we would have been able to pluck it back.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, you could pluck a show out of a channel. Now, never. You get canceled, you're fucked. They'll never hand that thing over to anybody because they don't want it to be successful anywhere else. But um, we kind of did our first that original pilot was done for USA Network, who was Doug Herzog, who started South Park and was the head of Comedy Central, and he fucking hated me. And Matt Stone kept trying to get me on board, and he's just like, that guy's a fucking loser. Kenny's a loser. And what
Based
happened
on
was
which show?
we did the pilot for USA Network, and he showed his 10-year-old kid the Kenny versus Spenny pilot in 2003 when we did it, and his kid's like, it's not funny, fucking idiot. And the guy's like, oh, it sucks. My kid doesn't like it. And he says, it's fuck, get rid of it. And so we managed to get it back. But that same guy who, Matt Stone took us to at Comedy Central to get us on Comedy Central said, these guys fucking suck. Why are you wasting your time? Matt managed to bamboozle it on Comedy Central. I ended up fucking that up. But
What did you fuck up about it?
well, I got testes while we were doing it because I thought I didn't think Spenny didn't have the ability to continue doing the show. He was too fucking done. He was done. And so it was just me pulling the ripcord. And I felt bad that Matt and Trey got the show on the air. And, you know, I probably could have done 100 episodes, but I secretly I knew Spenny was fucked. You know, Matt and Trey hired this is a true story. They hired an executive, not hired, but Matt made an executive from Comedy Central live with us in the house during was it season 5? During season 5, because they didn't think Spenny could do the fucking show. He had some guy, some executive on set 24/7 watching Spencer, making sure that he fucking stayed there and he did his shit and he was funny. He didn't fuck it up.
What? I have 1,000 questions. Where did
Mhm.
he live? Do you remember any episodes or anything like that?
Yeah, every episode he had it's funny. He had a broken leg and he was hobbling around. He wasn't really. He was just kind of like hanging back and not really like involved so much, but he was there to report to Matt and Trey about like, okay, Spenny's like,
See, this is
not
where I'm a little.
not wasted on drugs, and he showed up today.
So this is where I'm a little stupid, right? When you say live, do you mean that poetically, or did he literally have a
I'm not.
actual house?
He had a crash bed in the house. I think I think he lived somewhere else. But if we, sometimes we would just shoot nonstop for days, so he would have to crash, on the cot.
And that was you said that was season 5.
Yeah, I think that was season 5, the Comedy Central season.
So, and this is something. I mean, I don't do anything except make stupid videos on YouTube. But even I, like I'm reading from a script more or less, or I wrote the script, but I'm still reading it. It's my words
Yeah.
and my voice. But I got to make decisions about like, do I pretend I said these sentences next to each other or not? And so obviously, like in the show, when you're cutting it down from days to like 20 minutes, you're making decisions of like,
Well, we're not cutting it. We're not making decisions. Like I would be in the edit suites, but this is after like editors would do like rough cuts. You know what I mean? So I would usually come into a show is probably anywhere from 3 hours to 90 minutes, and I have to cut 20 minutes. So
okay,
sometimes it's 6 hours and you have to watch all that fucking shit because
yeah.
you'd get a new editor. They're so scared. They don't know what do I do with the show? I was like, God, fuck, cut the fucking thing. This is shit. This is that like I'm like fucking Paul Bunyan. I would axe like my forte in post production is pulling out the shit that is garbage and keeping the fucking gold and just managing to put it together so there was this you know, kind of show.
And
So,
yeah,
that's what I did is like I had to go in there and axe and fucking put this fucking thing together. It had to be 23 or 22 minutes and 35 fucking seconds every time.
yeah, and I bet there are a lot of cases where the editor showed you a cut and you don't even remember that that's not exactly how it went. Like there's a good example in Drink More Beer where you tell Spenny to leave the room after he has the hockey stick, and
Yeah.
it cuts to him being outside, and it sounds like you're telling him to go outside, but that didn't necessarily happen right after. But for all you know, it did.
Sometimes I didn't mind them putting later stuff in for it if it made the show go better. To me, it was just real and it worked, and you guys wouldn't know.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but
Until 20 years later, a bunch of idiots like me are like overanalyzing it.
yeah,
Yeah, no, and that it is.
the truth is, if you know, we don't if it's an editor thing, it's not even a my thing, something I wouldn't even notice, which is probably in the show a million times. But if they need a shot of Spencer going outside or to the kitchen and they don't have it from that time, they would steal it from another part of the show and you'd say, oh, Spencer didn't have his slippers on. So there's so much stuff you guys don't even pick up on. That's just production normalities that these guys do that I wouldn't even know that's because I wasn't with Spenny. I wouldn't know that's not a shot of Spenny walking into the kitchen from that moment. It's a shot from 2 days later, but it's just him walking in the kitchen. So who cares? He uses a cutaway, right? So,
Mhm.
who fucking knows? That's like I said, that's something that if I ever saw it, I would try to stop it. Um, Unless we really needed it. And it's just like, oh God, he saved that. Great, fun, good shit. Move on.
Mhm. Yeah. Did you ever have to think about like on one hand, I want to make the most mind blowing show ever, but on the other hand, like that isn't quite right, or like that doesn't.
No, I just wanted to make the most mind blowing show ever.
Mhm.
And I thought when I was a little kid that I would just kill myself one day because I was a loser that, you know. would hit a brick wall, and I could never work or do anything. So one day I just thought, ah, fuck, I'll just kill myself.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Um,
Yeah, thank God.
I feel you.
That's when you're 8 years old, and you think, oh, geez, okay, when I'm 40, I'll kill myself because I'll be a loser.
I don't know. Maybe I'm the one other person on Earth that thinks that's normal. I don't know,
Well,
or identifies with it.
that might be normal for everybody. I'm just not going to bullshit you. I'm gonna, you
Yeah,
know.
I definitely when I was a kid, you watch so many sitcoms and stuff, and the joke is like, I hate work. Work is so awful. My life, my horrible wife. I don't want to get married. And so, as watching that as a kid, I was like, if I can't find a job I don't love doing, like my life is over because I
Yeah.
don't want to be, that guy in that
Well,
sitcom.
because we watched our dads and
Yeah,
other people's dads, and we want to fucking shoot ourselves
yeah.
because we thought, oh, this is we have no other choice. It's going to be us. So if that's me, I'm just going to fucking kill myself.
Like
Which is what Spencer thinks of every day.
you've been asked this before, but I want to pinpoint an answer from you. Do you have some of that rough cut or
Yeah, I got tons of them.
okay, where,
Sebby saved
how?
them all. I have them on a drive. Sebby saved them all. I had a million. I had a trunk. Actually, I had this trunk. This trunk was filled with like 600 pounds of fucking DVDs. And one day I just tossed them because I kept moving and moving. And I was like, I can't use these. So I just broke them all in half and I tossed them. 4 million fucking rough cuts. And then one day Sebby gave me a drive and it has like 60 rough cuts from all the shows.
One of the best outtakes that isn't even on a DVD is you pooping on Spenny's cauliflower in the fart episode, which I
Which I'm really embarrassed by it, and everyone's talking about it now, and it's all over the place. And it's like, I kind of regret that because it's so gross. Like,
but
I don't know why I did it at the time. It's just such a
it's gross. But his reaction to it obviously is funny, and your reaction of just like innocent, I'm so sorry, it was a mistake, is what's really funny. Like
yeah.
the fact that it's poop is not the
Do
most
I
interesting
say? Do
thing.
I? Oh yeah, I apologize. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you're
right.
like, it just flew out. Like that's a funny exchange to have. The fact that there is poop on cauliflower is
But
not
that's what I'm
funny to me.
talking about when the era was so gross with Jackass. Like they were leading the fucking content with all this gross fucking shit. And I don't know. Maybe the market was so saturated in that stuff.
I think it's in Torture, where you and Spenny have your heads in a table and there's a lizard attacking you. Do you remember
Yeah,
that?
I think we just put our heads in and the lizard didn't even move, wouldn't even get us. Like it just stood there and didn't do anything, and there was too much other good stuff, so we didn't use it.
Mm.
That was like a more of a Japanese game show thing I wanted to do, but you know, like it's like the capybara thing. It's like things just fucking standing there. It wasn't funny. It's like what, this didn't work. Fuck it, let's move on.
Mm-hmm.
The funny thing is um I meet with these YouTube like studio guys and stuff, and they're like, "You invented the internet, man." Yeah, okay, but they think that a lot of people out there think in the YouTube studio world that we were one of the Tom Green and us were one of the like initial like everything's competition now. Everybody's douching their girlfriend or their dads or all that stuff. You know what I mean? And I it's nice to think we had something to do with it.
Do
But
you,
there was no competition, no douching friends, no pranks, no tricks. Like even Tom Green didn't do pranks. Like I kind of was the first guy to do real pranks. Like, oh no, Tom did no, that's not true. Tom did prank his parents all the time. So I guess he's got first dibs on that.
do you? It's interesting to think. I mean, because I really like the like early internet era and that, and you've always been hooked into like video games, and you wore a shirt that said like P2P KvS. You put it on YouTube like instantly when the show ended, pretty
No,
much.
yeah,
Like
I
games, like
yeah.
chat rooms, like Did you
Yeah,
see
I had the video when it was what was one of the first ones we did? Oh, episode 1, like not the pilot, but episode 1 was we did who could gain the most weight and we did who could lose the most weight. And I brought the video game, the TV into the bathroom. And I think
Yeah.
that was people were like nobody had even like that was one of the first things I knew that was just a fucking meme that would just went where people like this guy's playing video games on the toilet. Like nobody even thought of that.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Nobody in their right mind would even think they're like, "Oh my god, we can play on the toilet? Like we don't have to stop playing." And that really was something that I felt like was really fucking genius, like, just incredible that back then, I enlightened people that they could play on the fucking they could play anywhere,
Yeah. Or,
you
or
know?
and I mean the kind of punk idea of I'm making a TV show and encouraging you to steal it. That kind of Abby Hoffman.
Yeah, well, I think what but just going back to the toilet thing is it's that I made my crew set that up and people knew like, "Oh shit, this guy's like I didn't do it." Like he made his guys do that for him, which is even cooler. And
Mhm.
he's like the boss and this is what I'm like, super, super TV guy. Yeah, I don't know. It was just so revolutionary to me when it aired. I was like, oh fuck, this is
Mhm.
special.
Do you have a fin? I mean, everyone loves video games and shit like that, but like you got in on some of that stuff so early. What motivated that? Do you just like technology, or it just came to you?
I grew up in the arcades with my brother in the 70s.
But even knowing, because
It started as they only had pinball really, and then asteroids, Space Invaders, Pong, everything.
but as
Star Wars.
as far as like the internet and stuff like that goes, the when I watch you on KvS talking about torrenting it or whatever, I'm like, here's an adult on TV who knows what a torrent is. You know what I mean? Like that
Well,
felt
it's
weird.
punk, it's steel.
Yeah.
Steel, and even playing video games, like Spenny hates fucking video games. Like he thinks anyone who plays video games is a monster. Like you were just wasting your life. So to flaunt that in front of him and to that it was one of the reasons why I was doing it to piss him off. Even though I did it anyhow, but to me it was just like it's just like fuck you adults. Like that's all. Like fuck you, like society. That's all I was doing.
Was
Was just
encouraging people to steal the show also to piss Spenny off? Or do you
no,
have a
no.
moral
It's just
stance of
no. I just believed that the only way to become famous was for people to steal the shit.
that makes sense?
Like I knew we were on CBC. Like, how's anyone in fucking Deutschland gonna like watch a show if we're on CBC? But when you encourage someone to steal it, and they're all of a sudden Scotland loves it because some pirate copies out there. It's really what happened with Faces of Death and other
Bum fights. And,
weird shit. And yeah, bump fights. I was way later and disgusting, gross. I would be into that,
that was
but
one of my. I mean, that was one
I
of my
watched
first.
it. That's the exploitive shit that I kind of wasn't into, and it's not even comedy. It was, oh, we got a fucking bomb here, and it's
There is one good. I
to me,
think
it's rape. It's just like it's so offensive that they would hurt people.
so. Here's a
But
transition.
but I have a lot of fans that would think I'm a total like loser for saying that sucked. Well, whatever.
So here's a transition because one of the I think a really good segment of bum fights, maybe the only one, is they do a cribs, but they basically just interview a guy under a bridge and his setup and stuff, and it's funny. And the guy they're interviewing obviously gets it. It's not
Oh
like
yeah,
he's
that's good.
being
I
totally
don't remember.
exploited.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's a good segment. I always like bum fights just because it's like showing you the reality of things, not just of these people on the street, but also these filmmakers who are so exploitative, like
Well,
the
it's
reality of
it's
that.
extremely, you know, interesting to watch,
Mm-hmm.
but so are, Chechens chopping Russian soldiers' heads off. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
how many? you know, of those vids can you watch? Like I still watch insane gore. Which the only reason I do it is just to remind myself that I'm gonna die and to kind of live appropriately, not fuck up my life too much. But yeah, there's a price to pay for that shit. Like I just watched on Reddit yesterday some caver who's just the
Oh,
most claustrophobic footage ever, and it's just like, oh, I said,
yeah.
brother's like, oh, I can't even watch it. I said, you have to watch that. Like, you need to know what the fucking barometer of life is, and it is so. So I sent it to Spenny. Spenny's like, oh yeah, well that didn't bug me. Like he wasn't affected at all by it. A piece of his brain is missing. So, but I'm not saying like cavers are cool. Like that's incredible. Like I wish I didn't have that type of, you know, you know, being scared of being buried alive. Spenny has no fear of that. That's so weird. Like there's obviously a piece of your fucking brain missing if you are not like, just creeped out by some guy, 300 feet underground alone trying to squeeze his body through a fucking, hole. It's so scary to me and shitty.
I am aware of one time you were on Cribs, and I've seen 2 edits of it. Were you ever on Cribs again? Like real deal Cribs?
Well, these are Canadian cribs, right?
I
So,
guess.
yeah,
I don't know.
so, there's a difference between, MTV cribs and Much Music cribs.
Okay.
So,
Do you remember doing it twice?
I think we did it twice. I think we did an earlier one, and then they came back and got more footage, and then probably cut them both. I think there was a US one and a yeah. I think they did the Canadian one, and when the American guys saw it, they were like, "Oh, this is great," and they came and shot some more footage, and then did cut another one out of it because the Canadian was too shitty for them.
That's
Yeah. So yeah, but I know somebody once at MTV told me that we're the only person that had two Cribs episodes and the history of Cribs.
so.
I think that's just because we were the only Canadian one that they wanted to put in the US.
So you saw on the subreddit kind of recently there was a guy who made your ribs, but he's like a professional and he had like tips. He wrote to me and he wanted to know what kind of beans you put in your chili. And just for that one guy, will you talk about the
Yeah,
beans you put in?
so the chili, I'll tell you, chili quickly is I put a lot of olive oil in the bottom of the pan and I fry onions and then I add oregano to the onions once they're kind of translucent and kind of cooked. I turn it down, and then I just use cans of like 5 bean cans of different beans, pinto and kidney, chickpea, and I drain the liquid. I keep some liquid on the side just in case I need to loosen it. And I stir all of that up with oregano and right before I put in the beans, I put in a fucking handful of garlic. I just kind of heat it up. I don't burn it, just get it nice and warm. Then I put in all the beans and then stir that around for maybe 5-10 minutes, just get it all kind of together. Salt, pepper, some more oregano, some more garlic if you need it, a little more olive oil, and then you add the tomato sauce. You let that cook for probably about a half an hour and get it really kind of integrated. Maybe like 15 minutes, half an hour, just get it boiling, and then you pour in like a half a cup of, or even a cup of fucking Parmesan. You just stir it up, turn it off, and leave it there for as long as you can, a couple hours. Uh,
That's a
yeah,
very thorough answer.
yeah.
He'll be pleased. That's it. That's the conversation. I hope you enjoyed it. It was really awesome of Kenny to take the time, and I also appreciate everyone who's been watching my videos and accompanying me on this journey up until this point. So, thank you.